Hey, if you've got an old laptop charge in your hand and you're about to toss it in the trash, hold up, don't do that. I just came up with a great way to give it a new life. Let's get started. I'm not even sure if it still works. With 19.5 volts written on the charger, if we can put it back to use, that's great. That kind of output is strong enough to power plenty of useful things. I just used pliers to cut off the damaged section of the cable, making it easier to test and get things ready for the next steps. It keeps things cleaner and simpler to handle later. When you use a knife to strip off the outer insulation, you've got to be careful. One slip, and you might end up cutting through the negative wire inside. After struggling with it for a while, I finally managed to peel back a small section of the outer insulation. That's the first step to getting access to the wire inside. Now we'll tidy up the negative wire. The metal strands that wrap around a positive lead should be separated and split into two ends, getting them ready for the connection step. Look, the result we got here is good enough for now. At least it'll do for moving on to the next steps. Now we'll connect the two wires I'm holding to the ends we just prepared. I've marked them clearly. Red goes to the adapter's positive lead, and white goes to the negative. To keep things electrically safe, we'll use heat shrink tubing. Just slide it over the joint, apply some heat, and let it tighten around the wire. That's it. For extra safety, I'll slide on another heat shrink tube big enough to cover both wires together. That way the connection stays firm and neat. At this point, I'm going to test whether this old laptop charger still runs steadily. Keep an eye on it and watch closely. After plugging it into the power outlet, I'll check it with this voltage tester. That's the most reliable way to see if the charger is still working properly. The display shows 19.5 volts, exactly as printed on the charger. That means it's still working fine. I feel pretty lucky because all the effort up to this point hasn't gone to waste. For the end of the wire connected to the negative lead, I'll attach an alligator clip. Here's a tray with a few small metal pieces. Let's see if there's anything in here that catches my interest. A motorcycle valve stem. That looks promising. It might come in handy for this idea. And with one more piece from the cable turnbuckle, that's all I need. Now everything essential is ready. I want to fix this hollow valve stem onto the ring of the round head. At this point, I'm pretty sure some of you have already guessed what I'm up to, right? Well, it's time to lay it out. I'm building a homemade welding machine from this laptop charger. It's my way of turning something that looked like scrap into a practical tool. If you guessed it right, drop a comment below so I and everyone else can see how many of you figured it out. To be honest, once it's all assembled, the setup looks neat and pleasing to the eye. Now, let's set it down for the moment and move on to the next step. I'll remove the core of this battery pack step by step to turn it into a welding tip for the DIY unit. Watch each step closely. If you're new, observe first before trying it yourself. First, I'll clean off this battery core to get rid of the dirt, and then move on to the next step. At this step, I'll file down the sharp edges of one end of the battery core, making the welding process smoother and safer. Now I'll secure the welding tip to the valve stem. But first, we need to connect the wire, the one linked to the adapter's positive terminal, to the tip. Now we'll wrap tape around the wire near the handle, making it safer during welding by preventing direct contact with electricity and keeping the wire secure. If the tip of your welding piece still has sharp edges, file it down a bit to make it smoother and easier to work with. We're all set. Now all that's left is to plug it in and start testing. Do you see that spark? That means it worked. The device is ready to use right away. Actually, I tested its effectiveness before recording for everyone. After building, testing, and experimenting, here's a detailed view of this DIY welding machine made from a laptop charger. It's not professional. Performance is moderate. The 19.5 volt output works for thin materials but can't match high power welders. Yet, it's useful in certain situations. For small welds, experiments, or home DIY projects, it works. No need to buy a dedicated welder, and it's a great way to learn skills. Stripping wires, connecting, using heat shrink tubing, testing welds. These skills apply to future projects, from small home repairs, model building, to academic STEM project at home. For safety, wrapping electrical tape, using heat shrink tubing, and distinguishing positive and negative wires reduces risk. Still, it's not fully foolproof. Beginners may face hazards, especially with flammable materials or uncontrolled environments. Following steps in understanding the machine is crucial. Creating a welder from a laptop charger is exciting. Turning discarded items into functional tools teaches welding, electronics, patience, observation, and problem solving. This experience is as valuable as owning a professional welder because it bridges theory and practice. It also develops troubleshooting and creative problem-solving skills, important for DIY and technical work. Final assessment, moderate performance, but useful in some cases, especially for small DIY projects, experiments, or skill building. It doesn't replace professional welders, but is an engaging tool for creativity and exploration. In some urgent situations, for quick welding of thin materials or temporary fixes, it can still be handy. Now I want your feedback. Have you built your own devices? Do you think a welding machine from a laptop charger is worth trying? Comment below to share experiences, tips, improvements. Anyone with hacks to upgrade this device, share them. Real-life stories help newcomers learn and avoid risks. Your interaction is valuable, showing interest and helping the DIY community generate ideas. If you've tried a DIY welder or a laptop charger experiment, share it. Real experiences help beginners learn faster and safer. Also, sharing tips for improving the welding tip handle or wire enhances effectiveness and safety for everyone. Finally, though this welder is moderate, it proves creativity and hands-on skills matter more than expensive tools. You don't need costly equipment to start. What matters is using what you have, following the process, and prioritizing safety. That's the true DIY spirit. Turn ordinary items into useful tools. Learn through experience and keep challenging yourself. Creativity also saves costs, deepens understanding of how devices work, and hones technical thinking. If you're interested, try it, share your thoughts, and join the discussion. Together, we can turn small projects into memorable experiences. You'll feel the joy of building, learning, and connecting with the broader DIY community.